Tonight we go deep. 3 caving stories that start with confidence and end in chaos. 1 wrong turn, 1 missed warning, 1 moment underground where everything falls apart. Viewer discretion is advised. In the first story of tonight's episode, the Bungonia caves in New South Wales hold the deadliest air in world caving. Invisible lakes of carbon dioxide pooled in the deep sections. Cavers there live by a rule written in 50 years of close calls. Test the air before you trust it. On May 4th, 2024, Dean Carter dropped into the Grill Cave with his mate Josh, a rope for the pitches and a cigarette lighter that was not for smoking. Dean was 33 years old, a plumber from Goulburn with 20 years of these hills in his legs, strong as his trade and casual as his accent. He had walked the Grill Cave maybe 60 times. His wife had one rule for cave days, and he had never once broken it. Text her from the car park, both directions. Here is what you need to understand about foul air in a cave. Carbon dioxide is heavier than the air you breathe, so it sinks below the good air and fills the low places the way water would, sometimes 3 meters deep. You cannot see it and you cannot smell it. The old Bungonia test is the lighter. Hold the flame ahead of you as you descend. Listen to it hiss, and when the flame goes lazy, bends, and dies, you are standing at the shoreline of a lake you must not swim in. The flame gives up long before your lungs would notice, and that is its entire job. The first hour was a Saturday classic. Entrance series, the squeeze at the grill, flame checks bright and honest at every step, football talk the whole way. They stopped for water 70 meters down at the top of the fossil passage, where the cave levels out, catches its breath, and begins its long dip toward the deepest rooms. At the second dip, that is the moment the Saturday stopped being casual, because Josh, 10 steps ahead and mid-sentence, went quiet between one word and the next, because he had walked chest deep into a pocket the summer floods had shifted 30 meters uphill of the guidebook. Dean's flame bent sideways and died, and the cave around them looked exactly, perfectly, insultingly the same as it had 1 minute earlier. What he didn't know yet, watching Josh's headlamp tilt slowly against the far wall, 1 full breath of that pocket steals more thinking than 3 beers. And Josh, mid-sentence, had already taken 5. This breath would decide the whole afternoon, and every afternoon after it. Josh sat down like a puppet with cut strings, and Dean's shout died flat in the dead air. He backed up 2 steps. He breathed clean air. Panic knocked. He answered with a plan. Because this is the ugly arithmetic of a CO2 rescue. The rescuer gets a handful of breaths before he becomes the second casualty. And 2 bodies in the dip is how these stories end. Watch Dean's numbers. 10 meters of poisoned dip between him and Josh. Maybe 40 seconds of useful work per entry on a full lungful of clean air. 90 kilos of unconscious mate to move uphill, and a heart rate already at 160 from fear alone, burning his 40 seconds faster with every beat. He did it in raids. Deep breath at the shoreline, down the dip, grab the harness, heave, retreat, breathe. The first raid gained 3 steps. The second gained 5, boots scraping flowstone, Josh's helmet knocking the rock like a slow bell. On the third raid, Josh slid back half of what the second had gained, and Dean rebuilt the plan around a rope loop. Then the retested flame died 2 steps earlier than before. The invisible lake was still rising. On the 4th raid, his own vision went sparkly at the edges, the pocket's fee for overstaying, and he sat at the shoreline sucking clean air with his mate's boots still inside the invisible lake, and made himself count to 20 before the 5th. The 5th raid got Josh's chest above the shoreline. The 6th got everything out. And on the clean gravel of the upper passage, Josh took one enormous ragged breath on his own. The sound, Dean said later, that he intends to remember on purpose forever. It took them 2 hours to climb out, resting in stages, Josh's legs coming back 1 pitch at a time, the flame checks now a ritual performed in complete silence. Dean sent his wife the car park text at 6:12 that evening, 4 hours late, and then sat on the tailgate and shook for a while. The hospital in Goulburn kept Josh overnight and found a man with a headache, no lasting damage, and no memory at all of the 6 minutes he had spent trapped in the dip. A report that reads like a miracle and is actually a stopwatch. The club's incident review ruled the pocket had migrated after the summer flooding and updated the survey the same month. The lighter test is now taught across 3 states with this story attached, and the Grill Caves guidebook page carries a new line in red. Josh survived because his mate refused to do the brave thing and swim in after him, and did the smart thing and raids instead. Dean still caves at Bungonia with the same lighter, held at knee height, because in the caves with the deadliest air in the sport, the flame is the only mate who never lies. 6 raids, 40 seconds each. That is what a life costs at Bungonia. And he paid it in installments. And now, the second story of tonight's episode. Deep inside a Malaysian mountain sits Sarawak Chamber, a cave chamber so vast that every beam you own dies in black air before it finds a wall. 600 meters long, 400 wide. Room for 40 jumbo jets with the doors open. It is the largest cave chamber on Earth, and it deletes your sense of direction at the door. On August 8th, 2022, Priya Nair waded the entrance river into it with an expedition of 6. Her main light fresh with 14 hours of battery life, and a route she had studied for a year. Priya was 37 years old, a structural engineer from Pune who had caved on 3 continents, precise and allergic to shortcuts. Her father had taken her to her first show cave at 7, and she still sent him a postcard from every expedition. This one was already written. Here is what you need to understand about the biggest room underground. It removes the one thing every caver navigates by. No passage, no walls to follow. Only a boulder plain the size of a town square, and darkness with the lids off. The route across is a traverse line bolted along one flank, and the rule of the chamber is short and old. You keep contact with the line at all times, because out on the boulder plain, every direction looks exactly like every other, and the plain is the size of 40 football fields. The crossing began on schedule, 6 lights strung along the traverse like beads. Priya walked 5th in line, counting bolts the way engineers do, under a ceiling she knew was there and could not see. 2 hours in, that is the moment the crossing stopped being a walk, because a camera dropped by the caver ahead skittered 30 meters down the boulder slope, and Priya, closest and quickest, unclipped to fetch it, because it was 10 easy steps and the line was right there. 10 steps down, she got the camera. What she didn't know, turning back, she had turned 12 degrees short, and she was already trapped in open space, because nothing in that room could tell her which way was back. That shortcut would cost her 4 hours in the dark, in the largest cave chamber on Earth. She climbed to where the line should be and found bare rock. She swept her beam. Black air. Panic knocked hard. It got nothing. She answered it out loud in engineer's language. Stop. Breathe. Data. Because this is the trap of the boulder plain. Every stone looks like the last one. Footprints do not exist on breakdown. And confident walking in the wrong direction is how a 10-step errand becomes a search. Watch her numbers in the dark. 600 meters of chamber in every direction that all read the same. 12 hours of battery left if she burned one light. 6 if panic burned both. And one fact she made herself say in full. The team was 30 meters away and completely invisible. Because in that chamber, 30 meters of black air swallows a headlamp whole. And this is the part that decides everything when the walls are gone. You become the fixed point. She sat on the highest boulder in reach, killed her beam to save it, and began the whistle work. 3 blasts, rest, 3 blasts, into a darkness that ate them like the sea. Twice she heard answering whistles, thin and directionless, bounced off a ceiling 100 meters up until they came from everywhere. Twice she stayed put, because moving toward an echo in that room is moving at random. Above her on the traverse, the team ran the drill the chamber demands, and the drill is brutal in its restraint. Nobody else unclips, no matter who is missing. They anchored the big expedition lamp, a beam built for this one room and nothing else on Earth, and began sweeping it across the boulder plain in slow, patient arcs. A lighthouse turned inward on its own sea. The 4th arc found her, a spark of reflective tape on her helmet, 300 meters out on the plain. One boulder from where the echoes would have walked her off a 10-meter drop. They talked her home by lamp flash. 2 flashes left, 1 flash right, a language invented on the spot that worked on the first try. Priya clipped back onto the traverse line 4 hours and 10 minutes after she had left it, handed the camera to its owner, and said the sentence the expedition still quotes. The room is not empty. It is full of directions, and they are all wrong. The crossing finished without further note, and the report ruled the incident a line departure in a zero-reference environment, survived by textbook stop and signal discipline. The expedition protocol changed the same week. Nothing gets fetched in Sarawak Chamber. Not by anyone, not ever. Dropped gear is dead gear. Her father got his postcard a month later, with 1 extra line squeezed under the stamp, and he framed it, the way fathers do when the extra line says what that one said. Priya still climbs, still caves, and still teaches the chamber lesson to every team she leads. In the only room on Earth your light cannot cross, the bravest move is to sit still and become the lighthouse. Because the room has 600 meters of wrong answers and exactly 1 fixed point, and it can be you. And for tonight's final story. At the bottom of Cenote Angelita in Mexico flows a river that should not exist. A slow white stream with banks, mist, and drowned trees, winding through open water 30 meters down. Divers cross the world to float over it, because nowhere else on Earth does water pretend to be a landscape. On November 9th, 2023, Ingrid Sovang slipped into its green surface pool with a single tank reading 210 bar, a 45-minute plan, a camera, and 30 years of dives behind her. Ingrid was 56 years old, a retired schoolteacher from Bergen who had spent every vacation underwater, patient and thorough, the one who read the briefing twice. Her dive club had a wall of her photographs, and the river of Angelita was meant to be its centerpiece. Here is what you need to understand about the river. It is a lie made of chemistry. A cloud of hydrogen sulfide, white as fog, floats where fresh water meets salt, and it only looks like a river you could wade. Below that cloud, the cenote keeps falling. 20 more meters into water the sun has given up on, and the briefing at every dive shop in Tulum ends with the same 6 words: stay above the white layer. The dive went like the postcard for 20 minutes. She dropped down the sunlit shaft with the drowned branches rising to meet her, the river resolving out of the green like a photograph developing. She hovered at 28 meters, a careful meter above the cloud, and filled her camera with the impossible. Mist rolling on an underwater riverbank, a drowned tree standing in it. Her buddy Marco silhouetted against the white like a figure on a bridge. At minute 22, the perfect shot asked for 1 more meter, and that meter put her fins in the cloud. That turn would be her last framing decision, because hydrogen sulfide mist erases light, edges, and the horizon in one breath, and her sense of up failed with them. Inside the white, her lamp lit a sphere of milk 1 arm wide. What she didn't know, finning calmly at first, she had rowed as she sank, and the calm, confident direction she chose was down. The cloud let her out at 34 meters, 2 minutes into the wrong direction, into blackness, not sunlight. Her light found no river and no drowned trees, no Marco. Panic arrived. It took the controls, and panic at depth swims hard in the direction it already has. Because this is the cruelty of the dark side of the cloud. The white ceiling above her glowed faintly with the daylight it was stealing, and glowing floors are a thing no brain expects, so she read the light below as the way out. Watch her numbers run the wrong way. 40 meters became 46 meters, then 50. Her tank fell through 90 bar, spent double time by depth and fear, regulator hissing. And one instrument on her wrist telling the truth the whole time, a depth gauge climbing, 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 read by eyes that had stopped believing instruments. And this is the part that decides everything below the cloud. Bubbles never lie. Exhale, watch them, follow them. 30 years of training knew it. And at 52 meters, that training fought panic for the controls and slowly began to win. She stopped and she breathed, bubbles crackling up past her hood. She watched the silver spheres slide toward the glow she had called a floor and turned herself after them with 40 bar left. Above the cloud, Marco had spent 6 minutes sweeping the white, screaming her name into his regulator. At minute 29, his beam caught her bubbles breaking the layer, and he punched down through the mist. He met her at 31 meters, rising too slow, regulator loose at her lips, eyes somewhere else. He shared air and swam her up the shaft with his gauge under 20 bar. The surface took them back 9 minutes after the cloud had taken her. The dive shop's oxygen and the Tulum ambulance did everything that can be done beside a jungle pool. Ingrid Solvang never woke up. She died that evening in Playa del Carmen, of drowning complicated by depth, 9 minutes of it, below a river that should not exist. The investigation ruled it disorientation in the sulfide layer, aggravated by solo positioning below the body line at the worst possible moment, and praised Marco's 6-minute search and recovery as textbook under impossible visibility. A report that gave him none of the blame and, his friends say, none of the sleep either. The recovery report ran 11 pages and ruled the 9 minutes below the cloud unsurvivable past the 4th. The dive shops of Tulum now brief Angelita with her story in it. The cloud erases up, the glow below is a lie, and the bubbles never are. Her club in Bergen hung her last photograph. The river, the tree, the silhouette, in the middle of their wall, with a small brass line beneath it that every diver reads on the way to the water. The most beautiful things down there are the ones that lie to you. The river does not exist. Stay above it anyway, 30 meters down, where it flows.